What's good, fellow outcasts of the Rejects? It's Nier here, and welcome to WTC, the Anime Outcast. First off, if you're new here, we upload anime what-ifs based on My Hero and other shows alike. Secondly, did you know 80% of our audience is subscribed? If you want us to continue making videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Now, let's get into the video. Standing right next to the defeated Ida, both Izuku and Uraraka celebrated their easy victory while the team of villains grieved their defeat.
And the heroes win! Outstanding work to both young Midoriya and young Uraraka!
Shouted All Might, his voice echoing through the loudspeaker. Helping Ida back up, the Turbo Hero started to wonder where his fellow teammate was, only for Izuku to quickly grab the captured Bakugo, still doing whatever he could to escape his confinements, but to no avail.
Damn you, you worthless Deku! How the hell were you able to do all that?
Ranted Bakugo, only for Izuku to cover the spiky blonde's explosive mouth.
Seems he's not happy you took him down,
muttered Uraraka, causing Izuku to chuckle at their comment.
Well, it's typical Kachan for you,
Izuku responds, dragging the still enraged Bakugo behind him. Meeting the class back in the monitoring room, the rest of Class 1A congratulated the heroes, especially Izuku, who was not only able to take down his former bully, but also outwit both Bakugo and Ida. Being surrounded by his classmates made him feel proud, but at the same time a bit of annoyance, since all Izuku did was focus on the mission. As All Might calmed the class down, he gave his thoughts on the fight.
Obviously, our clear winner here is the heroes. Both teams showed incredible talent, I'll have to say, young Midoriya. You were able to outsmart not only young Bakugo, but also assist your teammate when it came to the securing the bomb. You focused solely on the task at hand. For that, I declare young Midoriya to be the MVP of this exercise,
announced the symbol of peace, causing many of the students to ask why Ida didn't become MVP.
Well, to answer your question, young Asui, on why young Ida didn't become the MVP of this round, there's a good reason behind that. Anyone want to have a go at it?
All Might asked as Yaoyorozu raised her hand, eager to answer the question.
Sir, I believe I have an answer to that question. Although Ida was stationed at the bomb and making sure that no heroes would be able to disarm the bomb, the grave mistake for the villains was that Bakugo solely had a grudge on Midoriya, meaning he left Ida all alone while Bakugo went to fight Midoriya, which of course leads to his demise. As for Midoriya, he showed that he can think outside of the box, being able to quickly analyze the situation at hand and outsmart his enemies with the excellent example of what a hero is. I mean, he specifically targeted their weaknesses, the use of cold temperatures to dampen Bakugo's quirk, and the excellent display of teamwork when both Izuku and Uraraka confronted Ida. And another reason, Ida spent too much time on those villain monologues, and if he paid attention, he might have been able to stall the heroes long enough,
explained Yaoyorozu, embarrassing the Turbo Hero even more. Midoriya was right. I should have paid more attention, Ida muttered to himself.
Excellent answer, young Yaoyorozu. When it came to young Ida and his banter, it led a small window of opportunity for young Midoriya to slip in and help out. Young Midoriya is a true example of how heroes should approach situations like this. Good work,
said All Might, looking directly at his apprentice. As All Might finished the debrief, the rest of the students went in and conducted their exercise. While watching the rest of his classmates complete the hero exercise, All Might approached Izuku.
Young Midoriya, I need to talk to you after class,
All Might declared, immediately knowing what All Might wanted to ask his young apprentice. Izuku nodded, hoping that All Might didn't find out about his training with Oliver. As class came to a close, All Might congratulated everyone in Class 1A. Some won the exercise, while others failed, explaining that this exercise was a great opportunity to learn from your mistakes, and the heroes are bound to make mistakes. Finally wrapping up class, Izuku followed the deflated All Might to the staff lounge, the exact place where All Might asked Izuku if he was really telling the truth. Both his student and mentor alone, All Might got straight to the point.
Young Midoriya, I need you to be completely honest with me. I know that you aren't training with that Emerald Archer. When I saw you in the hero costume of yours, I had a feeling you're being influenced by him. Why are you trying to be like him?
Asked All Might, as the unfazed Izuku looked directly at his deflated state.
All Might, I'll say this once again. I'm not affiliated with the Green Arrow. All that I'm doing is paying respects to him. I know that he's frowned upon, but he saved me from the sludge monster that day. If it weren't for him, I would have been long dead. I'm just paying my respects to him. That's all.
Izuku responds, explaining his reasons to the symbol of peace, relieving All Might's concerns.
Well, I'm glad you're paying his respects for him. But please, young Midoriya, don't become another Green Arrow. Unlike him, you are my successor. And it's my job that my successor becomes a better hero than me. A true symbol of peace that we heroes look up to,
said All Might, placing his arm on Izuku's shoulder.
Yes, sir,
replied Izuku, nodding All Might's words. Finally arriving back in class, Izuku was once again bombarded by his classmates. Many of them congratulated him on his accomplishments.
Hey, it's Midoriya! Way to go, man! You're defeating not only Bakugo and Ida with those smart techniques was really cool!
Complimented Kirishima, causing many of Izuku's classmates to run up to him.
Yeah, like, you and Uraraka used the smoke arrows to blindside Ida, or when you used that freeze arrow of yours with Bakugo? How'd you do it?
Ashido asked, eager to know how Izuku obtained his skills.
I guess a 10-month-long internship between Consolidated made me do it.
Izuku responds, giving his fake story to his classmates, not wanting for any of them to know the truth.
By the way, where's Kacchan?
Asked Izuku, wondering where his former bully was, only for Ida to answer that Bakugo left early. Knowing where he was, Izuku wasted no time on catching up to him. Jolting out of the classroom, using the power of One for All the students watched in awe as Izuku ran out of the school like a green blur.
There he goes,
muttered Kirishima, watching Izuku run far into the distance. Managing to catch up with Bakugo, Izuku managed to catch up with his childhood bully. Feeling a familiar presence behind him, Bakugo broke the tension.
What did you do in those 10 months, Deku?
Bakugo muttered, turning to face the green-haired boy.
You really want to know, Kacchan?
Izuku asked, knowing all too well that Bakugo won't back down.
Don't play me for a fool, Deku. 10 months ago, you couldn't even hurt a simple fly. You know, you're a completely different person, whose sole mission is to become the next symbol of peace. I see your goal clearly, Deku. Something happened to you. How could a simple internship make you into this cold individual?
Bakugo asked, angered at how Izuku changed within the past 10 months. Realizing that Bakugo wouldn't back down until he got a proper answer, Izuku sighed, knowing what he had to do. Izuku took off his shirt, revealing the entire truth to Bakugo, who was completely filled with shock and denial.
Deku, how the hell did you get all those?
The shocked Bakugo inquired, glancing at multiple scars on Izuku's chest, back, and arms. Mostly from cuts and scrapes, while others were from multiple scars, such as burns and penetrated wounds from multiple arrows.
After we got attacked by the sludge monster that day, when you chased me into the forest, I met this individual. He told me I could become someone else. He told me I could become something else. He took me to this island called Lian Yu. It's an island located in North China Sea. I was living there for 10 months. During those 10 months, I had to survive. I went through hell to manifest my quirk, Kacchan. That's why I don't want to talk about it. Out of everyone at UA, you're the only one who knows, so please, I'd rather not have anyone know what really happened to me.
Izuku explains, causing Bakugo to look at him with a more sincere demeanor.
And All Might doesn't know?
Bakugo asked, only for Izuku to shake his head.
He doesn't, and I don't want him to know. If he knew, I'd put myself in more danger,
answered Izuku right as when his phone started to vibrate.
I gotta go,
Izuku abruptly said before leaving Bakugo alone. Following the battle trial and the exhausted training session with Oliver, Izuku woke to the sound of morning birds and the bright sun leaning over his window. Getting ready for school, as always, Izuku did just that, but to his surprise, he was met by several news reporters who surrounded the gates of UA. Automatically assuming Bakugo must have told All Might and everyone else, Izuku clenched his fist in anger.
Kacchan, don't tell me you told everyone,
Izuku mutters before he is swarmed by several reporters asking him many questions, mostly about his mentor All Might. Pushing several news reporters away, Izuku made it into the school, annoyed at the fact that news reporters were bombarding the school with questions. By the time he arrived in class, Aizawa was busy explaining that they'll be going on a field trip to do rescue training. Before they could do so, he was announced that Class A should choose a class representative. Automatically, everyone chose Izuku and Momo. To everyone's surprise, he nominated Ida instead. not wanting to deal with distractions such as managing an entire class instead of focusing more on his training with Oliver. Izuku did just that. Thanking the green-haired boy, Ida became the class representative, with Yaozu being his vice rep. Before leaving class, Aizawa took the stage once again. The class rep out of the way, we'll be going to unforeseen simulation joint. From there, you'll be conducting some rescue training. What you wear for this exercise is up to you, but we aware your hero costume might hinder your performance, so choose wisely. Aizawa says, as the shelves containing everyone's hero costume started to open. Walking up to Izuku's briefcase, Izuku wasted no time suiting up. By the time Izuku suited up, everyone was already outside, ready to go to the USJ. Boarding the bus, Izuku started to meditate once again. Unfortunately for him, his meditation was cut short due to everyone rambling inside the bus, annoying Izuku.
Hey Midoriya, there's something I gotta ask.
A frog-like girl asked, causing Izuku to look at her.
What is it, Asui?
Izuku responds,
Itsu, not Asui, Midoriya. Anyways, I couldn't help but wonder, is your quirk similar to All Might's? And besides, how'd you learn those moves? I heard you went to a 10-month internship at Queen Consolidated before coming to UA.
Curious Asui asked, only for Izuku to answer that his quirk was his own, and that the training at the internship helped him manifest one. It didn't take long until the entire bus started talking about quirks and other techniques, until the bus skidded to a halt as they had finally arrived at the USJ. Stopping at what seemed like a giant glass dome, Class 1A was met by Aizawa and Routine. While 13 was giving her usual speech about rescue work, Izuku barely paid attention, using this time to meditate on the spot the students were quickly ushered inside. Inside the USJ looked like a playground. Well, for heroes, that is. As 13 had finished conducting her speech, a purple void appeared in front of them, just as Izuku opened his eyes, realizing that something was wrong. Coming out of this, a mysterious purple void, hundreds of villains swarmed the area, as a giant humanoid creature stepped out of the portal, startling the class. Attempting to contact UA, Izuku was only met by a loud sound of static coming from his comlink that Oliver had installed on his hero costume.
What's happening?
Kirishima asked, watching the villains continue to pour out of the purple portal like an endless stream of water coming out of a sink. Ordering the students to step back, Aizawa immediately ran down, doing his best to incapacitate the villains, but at the same time, his student Izuku joins him, not even using his quirk. Both Izuku and Aizawa defeated the oncoming villains. Seeing Izuku take down villains with little to no problem at all, especially without a quirk, amazed Aizawa.
This kid.
Aizawa says to himself, watching Izuku knock out a villain before shooting an arrow towards a villain that was about to attack the Eraser hero.
Midoriya, go help your classmates. I got this handled,
shouted Aizawa, instructing Izuku to help out the rest of the class. Doing just that, Izuku ran to his classmates, just as they were surrounded by purple fog.
Please excuse our rather sudden entrance. I do believe this is the place where the symbol of peace should take his last breath.
The misted villain says, where Kirishima and Bakugo lunged at the villain, attempting to land a powerful strike, but unfortunately for them, their efforts were meaningless, as they failed to hit the villain's actual body. The villain, now angered at the students, dispersed them around the USJ in a fit of anger for trying to mess up the League's plans of killing the symbol of peace. The next thing he knew, Izuku was falling into a huge pool of water, immediately firing an arrow towards a nearby boat, swinging him to safety. Izuku took some time to assess the situation. He was met by Asui and a scared Mineta, taking a second to breathe and figure out what was actually happening.
Midoriya, did you know why they're attacking the UA facility?
Asked concerned Asui, only for Izuku to realize what was going on.
They're here to kill the symbol of peace. Fortunately for them, Ame was really busy doing some hero work before he arrived at UA, which means we need to stop them before they land a finger on him.
Izuku responds, watching the chaos unfold at the entrance of USJ. Izuku couldn't help but feel powerless, as he saw 13 and Aizawa get ripped to shreds by the villains. Knowing that his teachers needed help, Izuku knew that what he had to do, instructing both Asui and Mineta to get on his back, while Izuku flings them to safety using his quirk. Doing just that, Izuku activated his quirk, calling upon full cowling as Izuku jumped off the boat, alerting the villains beneath him.
He's in the air! Get him!
One of the aquatic villains shouted, just as Izuku throws both Asui and Mineta off of him while firing an ice arrow at the villains, causing them all to freeze in place. Safely landing on the ground, Izuku immediately charged at the villains, as both Aizawa and 13 were in desperate need of assistance. Wasting little to no time, Izuku fired an arrow towards the boss villain, who was in the middle of decaying Aizawa's elbow. Not knowing Izuku was behind him, the boss villain felt something pierce his back, forcing him to let go of Aizawa, and causing him to look directly at Izuku Midoriya.
Let your hands off of him!
Izuku shouted as the villains painfully ripped the embedded arrow out of his back.
You brat!
The villain shouts, charging at Izuku for him to trip from Aizawa's capture scarf.
Mr. Aizawa, are you okay?
Izuku asked, returning to the injured Eraser hero, helping him up. I'm fine, Midoriya. Thanks for saving me. Aizawa replies before ripping off a piece of his scarf and bandaging his elbow. Scratching his neck in pure frustration, the boss villain spots both Asui and Mineta behind him. Watching everything unfold, the villain knew what he had to do.
If I can't destroy the symbol of peace, then maybe I should destroy his pride,
muttered the villain before charging right at Asui and Mineta. Noticing this, Izuku wasted no time drawing his bow back, attempting to fire another arrow at the hand-covered villain. Izuku did just that.
What if I destroy your fist?
Shouted Izuku, firing arrows directly at the villain. This time the villain caught it right before it hit him in the back.
Don't think that'll work a second time,
muttered the villain, before disintegrating Izuku's arrow into tiny pieces. Seeing his arrow decay right in front of his eyes, Izuku proceeded to fire an arrow at him. But this time, a different arrow.
You and your League of Villains have failed this city!
Izuku shouts, just as the boss villain caught another arrow that Izuku launched.
You're wasting arrows, kid. My quirk allows me to decay everything I touch. Don't bother trying.
The villain responds, only for the Emerald Archer's apprentice to chuckle at his statement.
No, I'm not,
Izuku abruptly says, for hearing a beeping sound coming from the arrow. By the time the villain realized what was going on, Izuku's arrow exploded, sending them both back from the overwhelming explosion. Slowly getting back up, the boss villain realized that many of his hands weren't covering his face anymore. Enraged, the villain ordered the gigantic humanoid monstrosity.
Nomu, take this toy away!
Ordered the villain, as the Nomu promptly did just that, charging at Izuku, who was still recovering from the explosion. He was shocked to see this gigantic being in front of him. Before his mind could register what was happening, Izuku was thrown across the USJ like a rag doll, as Nomu proceeded to break Izuku's bow, not allowing him to interfere with the villain's plan anymore. Expecting to get flung across the huge glass dome, Izuku clenched his eyes shut, only for him to feel a huge gust of wind race past him, as Izuku was placed on the ground. Opening his eyes, he saw someone familiar. It was All Might. He was finally here. Widening his emerald eyes, Izuku watched as All Might stood beside him.
Are you okay, young Midoriya?
All Might asked, while Izuku brushes himself off.
Yeah. Thanks, All Might.
Izuku responds, just as All Might turns his attention to the rest of the villains.
Do not worry, my students, for I am here!
Yelled the symbol of peace, asserting his dominance to the entire room, as all the eyes glanced at the symbol of peace. Thanks to Outcast and Rejects for watching till the end of the video. If this video gets 80 likes in 2 weeks, we'll continue the series. Other than that, if you have any questions about the series or channel, sound off in the comments or feel free to join our Discord. And now, that's Nier signing off, and hope you all have a wonderful day.